We made this. Hello and welcome to the first of 4 special anniversary episodes of Right in the Childhood. We're doing 2 interesting new shows and we're sharing with you 2 episodes from our failed attempt at Patreon.
Say failed.
Well, no one signed up to it, Fraser.
I won't say it was failed. I'd just say we just
Unpopular.
No, because we made this did a Patreon, so we're like, we're better just sticking with that and going by ourselves. Never say failed.
I mean, we always said we did this for the love, and we do because it's great fun just hanging out watching kids telly.
Exactly. You did surprise me when you said 4 specials, and I was like, "We're doing 4? What?"
No, we've got 2 specials we've already done.
Yeah,
that we're putting out.
They're in the bag
because no one listened to them, and they might as well have them. Those are revisits of our first 2 episodes, the Tripods and Recess, where one of us had binged it. But this one is...
Can we make this a celebration then, that we've made it a year of podcasting?
Yeah.
Not we did Patreon for a bit and then didn't.
I haven't told the premise of the show. I haven't introduced us.
We need some party poppers.
I'm all excited about our 1-year anniversary. They're good party popper noises.
Thank you.
I'm all excited about our...
Oh, wait.
Wow.
That's not a...
teachers used to hate that when I was a kid going... I can't do it.
Really? I was really good at that. I can do it like quite loud.
Go on then.
Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Teachers used to hate that in my school.
Oh yeah, no, the teachers
talking about childhood.
We're not a fan of me doing that either. But I used to do it I still do it now when I'm coaching kids, but like cricket sound effects. Okay. And I do like the hot, I can do little ones and then one time me and my mate did it in like shops. We used to serve tennis balls and just like.
Wow.
Running away. But I'm going to hit the ball to you and you're going to explain the premise of the show.
I am. Well, I'm Mark.
Before it gets too derailed.
I'm Mark and I'm a Generation X borderline millennial. He's Fraser.
And I'm a borderline millennial Gen Z. So we cross 3 different generations in a way.
We're both pretty millennial in our outlooks and attitudes. Unless they've been knobheads.
Speak for yourself. We take the good credit. We take the good.
Yeah.
Ignore the bad. And then take the good of the other one. Ignore the bad of the other.
But we spent 12 months talking about generations, so we're not going to do that again today. But the premise of the show... Maybe. Regenerations.
Regenerations.
Yeah, we're doing Doctor Who.
I know, this has been a long time coming. It's pretty fitting for the year one, because most of your shows... more earlier on, we're like, it's Doctor Who, but not.
So...
If you're being mean... Or if you're being...
No, I think that it's an absolutely fair assessment that I adored Doctor Who so much as a kid that everything that I watched was likely to be of a similar vein. So something like Dark Season, maybe I didn't clock it at the time, but that was so like Doctor Who.
If Netflix was around when you were on, or like The Queue or whatever, when it's like, oh, you like this, here's this.
Yeah, exactly right.
And again, that was in your generation. That would be it would be determined by the time slot.
Yeah.
So a lot of your stuff you mentioned was
Robin
the
of
same
Sherwood, Tripods,
was the time slot of Doctor Who. So it makes a lot of sense. But we're finally touching upon Doctor Who, but we're not doing what I've got in my head of Doctor Who, which is like Christopher Eccleston, mainly David Tennant, of like long episodes, Christmas specials. We talked a bit about at the end of the last episode that. They were half an hour. They didn't do Christmas episodes. There was a TV movie.
So, Doctor Who, don't test my knowledge. I will be boring as fuck unless I rein myself in. But Doctor Who had 30-minute episodes for all of the series except for the first series of Colin Baker's run where they had 45-minute episodes. And they were a lot more similar to the 2-parter styles in Christopher Eccleston's run.
Yeah.
So they would all be at least 2, some of them 3-parters.
Mm-hmm.
And they were similar in, there was the cliffhanger and then there wasn't.
You'd keep going, yeah.
But the 3-parters and the 2-parters were basically 4-parters and 6-parters for what the audience were used to.
Yeah.
So all of prior to Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy, there were a lot of very long stories, like some 6, some 8 episodes.
Okay, yeah.
But all of Sylvester McCoy's runs were either 3 or 4 episode serials.
And is it like one writing team would do 4 episodes, then another one would do another 4? Or
it would be a writer. It wouldn't just be a writing team. It would be a writer per story.
Story. Oh, that's good. So like you're sort of getting a variety and stuff. So are Colin Baker and Sylvester McCoy considered like that was when Doctor Who found its format, or
no?
Or is that when people sort of turned off it? Because it went off the air, obviously, didn't it? And then it came back in my generation with...
So Doctor Who was almost cancelled after the series that I talked about, the first series of Colin Baker, where they did the 45-minute episodes.
Right.
And they reduced it down to 14 episodes, but they were 45 minutes.
Right.
Whereas previously the series were longer, but they were 30 minutes.
But if you were binging it all together, you'd probably get a similar screen time. Yeah, makes sense.
After that series, when it was very nearly cancelled, they did the Trial of the Timelord, which was...
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, it was 4 stories that had an ongoing plot throughout the whole season. Right. And they kept 14 episodes, but they reduced it back down to 30 minutes. 30 minutes. And then that's what we got for the 3 series of Sylvester McCoy, were 30-minute episodes, 14 episodes.
Right.
And so it essentially meant that, they were roughly 90-minute stories.
Right.
Depending on whether there were 3 or 4 episodes, maybe a bit more.
Who was the first Doctor? Was it Tom Baker?
No, the first Doctor was William Hartnell in the 60s.
I haven't even heard of him.
Yeah. Well, it was definitely William Hartnell.
I was going to say, because Baker's sound like he's the one.
Tom Baker was the longest running and most popular Doctor.
That's probably why
he regenerated into Peter Davison and the viewing figures went down a little. Yeah. Peter Davison regenerated into Colin Baker and it was quite a serious damage.
Really?
It was touch and go on a lot of occasions on whether Doctor Who was going to continue. And as a big fan...
Any relation between Tom Baker and Colin Baker?
No, not at all.
Just last name?
Just the last name.
Both played Doctor.
Yeah. I'm not related to, what's her name, Adams, from the Spice Girls. Wish I was. She might throw me a few quid. Victoria Adams.
I was going to say, considering you can't pick
No, she's not related to me.
Probably not for the best, is it? I know, that's just mad. It's just mad, isn't it? Like some of the coincidences. So Tom Baker then. So was Tom Baker sort of like as highly regarded as like David Tennant is for my generation, sort of like thing?
I'd say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. If we're going to make comparisons. I think maybe we should. What are you expecting from Doctor Who?
I don't know. Now I'm very on edge because I adored Doctor Who with Christopher. I thought Christopher Eccleston was great, short-lived, but was great. David Tennant, I feel like he changed the game of like science, like his Doctor Who storytelling changed the game of like science fiction, let alone like what Doctor Who was doing. And it sounds like it had a similar vibe to when Tom Baker left, because when Matt Smith came on, they dipped a bit. But then after Matt Smith, it was Peter Capaldi, right? And it went even. It felt like it even went down, and now...
I remember being incredibly excited for Christopher Eccleston and mortified when he only lasted a series.
Yeah.
And thank goodness David Tennant was great.
Yeah, because that could have been the death.
I liked Peter Capaldi more than I liked Matt Smith.
Yeah.
But again, I think maybe that's because Peter Capaldi was back to a slightly older
and the
Doctor,
more classic sort of what you'd expect
which
from,
is more like the classic. Exactly right.
Yeah.
You know me.
And I think as well, like it seemed like he had that vibe anyway, because he does seem like, oh, this is a callback, because that was
I think it was
around that time as well. A lot of we're in it now still with remakes and reboots and stuff like that. You still want to acknowledge the old whilst bringing the new. I think David Tennant was great at bringing new life to Doctor Who.
Yeah.
And what was the old was, you were seeing the Daleks, but with good special effects. You were seeing the Cybermen, but with good special effects. And
So what the new the reboot of Doctor Who lost, in my opinion, was the quintessential thing about Doctor Who was its cliffhangers. When you think about it, 4 and 3 episode stories.
Did you not get that with David Tennant stuff? I was always on edge of it.
Well, you only got like two, maybe 3 two-parters in a series.
I don't remember. I remember there being... Mind you, I might be thinking more. The Christmas specials always left me going. Like, I remember...
Yeah, they've gone back to the cliffhanger, but for a long time they weren't very cliffhangy, particularly Christopher Eccleston.
Oh, no, I mean like David Tennant stuff, because I remember I watched... Because it's important to note that Doctor Who is probably one of the greatest things UK have done in television, because it's spanned across all the world. But when I was in America, BBC America showed one weekend randomly just all the Christmas episodes of...
Okay.
This was in the middle of summer as well. This wasn't even around Christmas. And just watching all the David Tennant Doctor Who, like, Christmas ones, they were all connected through... And I didn't even... like, when I was watching him, I didn't think of it, but the old man who's always there.
Yeah.
Donna's, like, sort of granddad. The stuff with Billy Piper.
Yeah.
And the one with the Master.
Yeah.
My God.
Yeah, they went back to the cliffhangers a little bit later as David Tennant and then...
Got in his groove.
Particularly Matt Smith, actually, more. But if you look at the first few series, they just had maybe two or three two-parters a series. Yeah. Whereas, because the story was split into 4 or 3, for each story, there were 3 or 2 cliffhangers.
Yeah, maybe they just wanted to build up confidence, because like you say, if people were getting lost by that towards the end, they're like, right, build up the confidence, and now we'll do the part. This is mad.
So your Doctor Who, tell me things that you feel were quintessentially part of Doctor Who, and I'll tell you whether they were carried from the original
Sonic Screwdriver.
Yep, that started with John Pertwee.
Wow.
In the 70s.
TARDIS, of course. Love the
TARDIS, yep, that started from episode 1, although it was originally called The Ship. It took them quite a few...
To get a unique name for it.
It was ambiguous about whether or not he was human or not in the first few episodes. Remember, this was black and white, and it was basically a history show at the time.
So when did he become a Time Lord? Because the Time Lord's a huge thing in David Tennant's thing. His Two Hearts thing is like humanity...
It was in the first Doctor, obviously it had to be, because then he regenerated to...
of course, yeah.
William Hartnell regenerated to Patrick Troughton. The...
Very clever way of getting around recasting in it as well.
Well, William Hartnell was very, very ill. And they could either cast someone who looked like him or make him an alien.
I just think it's incredible. Like, it's definitely a good way, and I like what they've done now. Like recently, it was like, he can be any gender or anything like that, or he can, be excited to see him change race.
As a weirdo kid, I always thought it would be cool if the Doctor regenerated into an alien, because it never said that he had to look like a human.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And there was one regeneration where it went wrong. Well, they always go wrong, don't they? And there was one regeneration of the Master where it went wrong. So he was like this hideous, scarred
that's pretty
thing.
Cool.
That's very old episodes, because I loved the Sylvester McCoy stuff so much that I bought VHS tapes of previous Doctors. So I have quite a big knowledge of
deep dive.
Stuff from way before I was born as well, stuff from the 70s.
It's pretty cool. I remember David Tennant's one, like his hand being regenerated once, and there was a whole story about like he had a separate hand to his, like there was just a rogue because his hand got chopped off or something. That was pretty cool.
They didn't have the tech to do that.
Was like the companion always a big thing?
Yes,
in Doctor Who? That's
huge,
because I do like that.
There was more of a stereotype for the companions in the original series, and that was the screaming damsel in distress.
Right.
Don't really feel like that was completely fair, and there were certainly for the time strong feminist characters like Sarah Jane Smith. In the Fourth Doctor's run, there were some male companions
back
as well.
In the
she does.
Thingy. So obviously different actress, right?
Nope.
Really?
No, Elizabeth Sladen.
Oh, so was she younger?
Yeah, she was...
That's a cool...
She was a young companion for Tom Baker, and she was kind of like this spunky journalist type.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, she was
I really
great.
liked Sarah Jane, and I liked... Oh, do you know John Barrowman? What was his character?
Captain Jack.
Captain Jack, and he becomes the face of
Bo.
That was cool. That was a cool little like twist as well.
So that's something we didn't see. Doctor Who, the newer stuff. I mean, new 2005.
Yeah.
But your Doctor Who, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
has intergender relationships. It has people who are pan-romantic, pansexual. There's lots of gay couples and gay jokes and things like that. Zero of
that, and
and the reason for the reason why they, or part of the reason why they embraced the LGBT element of Doctor Who, is there was always a huge gay following, even when it had nothing in it.
Yeah.
To do, I mean, I think when people went to Doctor Who conventions and discovered that there's a lot of gayness there.
Yeah.
You don't
lean towards.
You lived more in a bubble. There was no fandom was big, but it wasn't anything like this. You couldn't talk to someone on the internet. You talked to the other kids at school.
And one of the hugest writers for Doctor Who is also a huge LGBT writer, like Russell T Davies.
Yeah,
he did that incredible.
And he was a huge fan of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
He's not that much older than me. He's maybe 5 or 6 years older than me. And he was a huge fan of Doctor Who. He wrote Doctor Who into Queer as Folk.
He did, yeah.
Because there is a huge queer love of the original Doctor Who for people my age and older.
It's mad. What do you think is the appeal for it? Do you think it is that?
No idea. I wish I don't know.
The correlation is just, I guess sometimes just people just pick up on stuff in it, but it's good to see, because even we talk about John Barrowman as an actor, he's a big, huge part of the LGBT community, so
he is.
It's nice. It's kind of interesting how they, they not only acknowledge the history and the lore of the previous shows, but also the fandom was oh yeah, let's lean more towards that when they brought it back. That's cool.
What else do you see as quintessentially Doctor Who?
I feel like some of the character villains, the Master, huge one.
He was a big thing in the original run. Originally played by Roger Delgado, which I don't.
Did he change a lot then, the Doctor?
He did. He regenerated. He was then Anthony Ainley, who I met at a Doctor Who convention and got his autograph, which I still to this day have framed on the wall. And he basically, I'll never forget when he did a panel on a Doctor Who convention. Anthony Ainley, someone said to him, "Why aren't you acting anymore?" And he said, "I don't need to. The royalty checks from UK Gold replaying Doctor Who keeps me going."
Yeah, would there, wouldn't it?
It's mad.
Enough,
Mad.
That's sometimes all you need is an actor, just one big hit and you're set then. And you can live comfortably, or you can pick and choose your projects, which,
Yeah.
commit stuff.
I don't think he was rich, but I don't think he wanted to be.
No, he just wanted, That's pretty cool. There's also the Daleks, a huge thing.
Daleks were massively controversial.
Yeah.
The original series was supposed to be quite educational. This fella goes around, he had 3 companions, 2 teachers and a young girl, and it was travelling around history, teaching kids about history. And then Terry Nation wrote in these fucking evil pepper pots with guns, and they were livid until they saw the viewing figures.
Oh, and it spiked up.
Yeah. They were
so Daleks
very, very early on.
Changed the direction of the show.
Yeah. They were very, very early on, and they were not what the original show was supposed to be, but they were so cool and so scary that you're right. They changed the show, and that's
probably for the best.
And that's why when they brought back the Dalek in Dalek, which, if you remember that one, that was a Christopher Eccleston episode where there was just one Dalek.
When he went up the stairs, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was massive.
Terrible.
That was massive for the fandom, because the Daleks were always scary, and to have this one Dalek that could wipe out basically a country, it was great.
Cool. Do you remember when they did a half human, half Dalek thing?
That was shit.
Creepy.
That really annoyed me. The bloody New York episode, wasn't it? I didn't like it. Crap.
So. I just remember being horrified as a kid. Cybermen as well. Cybermen were pretty cool. I remember that.
And I think that's something.
But they were quite campy, weren't they, in the original? Because I remember, when they came back, everyone was like, "Wow, they made Cybermen actually scary or something."
From the 5th Doctor onwards, they were still clearly men in sprayed suits with pieces attached, but they were at least vaguely believable.
Yeah.
Prior to that, my goodness, they were clunky as fuck.
Yeah, but more like Teletubbies.
And there is a reason why Doctor Who has the reputation, classic Doctor Who, has the reputation for wobbly sets and unconvincing monsters. It was done on the tiniest of budgets, but the creativity of the writers was something else.
And that's what made it long. That's what gave it the longevity on it. And it's stuff like, you know, you do a Red Dwarf podcast. You can sort of see the inspiration that Red Dwarf, like, you know, took from Doctor Who. It's like, oh, we can do a comedy based on this, just based on the...
I think it was more influenced by Star Trek, but definitely there are some Doctor Who elements of Red Dwarf.
Yeah, we're just that, like, science fiction thing in it, because, like, Star Trek definitely had the budget, whereas Doctor Who didn't. So Red Dwarf can do, like, oh, we'll do, again, sort of showing, but we'll lean towards it.
A huge priority for me, but Star Trek The Next Generation was something that my brother and I used to really, really look forward to. That was on just before the news or just after the news. It was on BBC Two, and it was every week on a certain day. The news would be finished and we could go and watch Next Gen.
Imagine the confusion if you, like, nodded off during the news, you woke up and there was a spaceship. It was like, whoa, what's happening what's happening down the road?
But Next Gen is my Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's my Star Trek. But again, I think to some extent, not to the same degree, but I think everyone's probably got their own Star Trek.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Was the one that they watched the most of as a kid.
Yeah.
And each one is for people of a certain age, like, you know.
Still going now, yeah.
If you're mid-40s, it's Colin Baker, Sylvester McCoy. If you're older than that, it's Tom Baker, Peter Davison.
Is there a bit of a rivalry between, like, Colin Baker fans and Sylvester McCoy fans? Like, is it like, oh no, this one's better, oh, that one's...
So it's widely regarded that Tom Baker was the cream.
The creme de la creme.
Yeah. And having watched some Tom Baker, yeah, he was an exceptional Doctor. Like, really something else. But you get attached to the one that you watched first.
Yeah, of course.
And it wasn't like you could go on Netflix and start from the start.
And watch the,
It was expensive VHSs. I actually did some research on this for the VHS releases of Red Dwarf. And they were about the same price as Doctor Who, so I can use this comparison here. Mm-hmm. And if you were paying £9 in the 90s for a VHS tape with 3 episodes of Doctor Who or Red Dwarf on, the equivalent inflation is about 22 quid. So each time I bought a single story of Doctor Who with 3 or 4 episodes on it, I was shelling out 22 quid's worth of my hard-earned 16-year-old wage.
Paper out.
I worked at TJ Hughes for £2.43 an hour.
Jeez.
Yeah, mate, 90s, innit? But I just wanted to do this so much. And I know we kind of joke about how, oh, it hurts, it's right in the childhood, when we don't like each other's stuff. I don't give 2 hoots, in your opinion, because I will never just not love this.
Yeah, that's fair.
I do. I want you to like it. I want you to enjoy it. I want you to want to watch the rest of The Curse of Fenric.
I don't think that will happen.
Perhaps The Curse of Fenric. So we're watching Time and the Rani episode 1, which was the first time we saw Sylvester McCoy.
Oh, we're going to see him transform? Or
yep, we see the regeneration. Cool. And Colin Baker was fired, so they couldn't regenerate Colin. They actually did wiggly wobbly special effects because Colin refused to go back for the regeneration because fired him. And
fair.
The Curse of Fenric. So I'm going to give you a very brief kind of synopsis of how Sylvester McCoy's Doctor progressed. Mm-hmm. He started playing a part that was written for any actor. And it was quite clowny, and he had amnesia from his...
Was he a bit rigid, you know?
No, not at all.
Sharp edges?
No. What joke are you making? I don't understand.
Sharp, you know, rigid edges.
Like the crisps?
Yeah.
Right, gotcha. No. I've lost my track now.
Was he crunchy?
He was, well... So...
Sometimes salty.
The character was written as a clown who played the spoons, and he had amnesia from his regeneration.
That's a reoccurring thing, isn't
Yeah.
it? Like, you just find it... They spend the first few
It
episodes
damages
of their
them,
thing
yeah.
finding that, yeah.
And the first series was written with Sylvester McCoy's kids' TV presenter background in mind, where they knew he could play the spoons, so they made the Doctor play the spoons.
Right.
He was on Tiswas in the early 80s.
That sounds like a Shakespearean, like, it was.
Tiswas was what you might have watched, going live for me. So what did you watch on Saturday mornings?
Oh, that's a good question. It was like SMTV.
Yeah, it's like SMTV, but in the really early 80s, late 70s, early 80s.
Sounds
so
like,
I didn't...
Sounds Shakespearean.
I didn't watch Tiswas, but it launched the careers of Chris Tarrant, Lenny Henry, Sylvester McCoy,
cool.
and a few others. And so they knew he was a kids' TV guy, and so they utilised that. It was a little bit... So in the second series, they got rid of the Screaming Companion, brought in a more modern companion called Ace, who I think you'll like.
Is that because I'm Ace?
Well, you are. You are Ace, but no, she was Ace as in Ace!
Thumbs up.
Yeah, that was like her catchphrase. When she did cool stuff, she'd go, Ace!
Wait, was this her actual name, or did she just go Ace?
Her name was Dorothy, but she liked the nickname Ace.
Cool.
And so that kind of was like a transitional series. And the fourth series, they were looking into making the Doctor mysterious.
Ooh.
And how he might
hide the spoon.
Maybe, but it was more stuff like, was the Doctor Merlin? And other storylines like that. And has the Doctor planned all these things
in a certain way?
In a certain way. And it was kind of almost like a precursor to a lot of current storylines where there's stuff underneath the surface.
I like those ones that goes around like him being a father or him being like a grandparent or like just a parent now, isn't it? That stuff's where it's
his granddaughter was in the first episode.
Yeah.
Susan was a Time Lord who was his granddaughter. She was in the very first episode.
That's cool.
But the third series is still sublime to me.
Is that where it hit?
Loved its darkness. Yeah. And that's why I've picked... The first ones I've picked is Time and the Rani, which is his regeneration, and The Curse of Fenric, which is widely regarded by a lot of fans as the best Sylvester McCoy series. Yeah. And, it's so dark it's
the salt and vinegar of...
Yeah, and I'll be interested to see what you think about... It's almost like he's two different Doctors. I'm interested to see whether, without watching the
stuff in between,
how it feels for you.
Yeah.
But, mate, I'm just so excited to do Doctor Who. I can't wait.
It's about time. Way.
I liked that joke. You know that was the... In fact, you know that was the... Well, you don't. That was the tagline for the film in 1995. It's about time was the tagline.
Right.
So maybe we'll...
Americans that for you, isn't it?
Right, I'm going to do a you. So we're going to get in the TARDIS and we're going to time travel to 1986.
Wow.
There we go.
I
will never do that again.
We better get good disguises. What did they have in the 80s? Tie-dye shirt.
Neon and mullets, wasn't it?
Mullets. Groovy, dude.
That was the 70s.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Right in the Childhood. We've been overwhelmed by the love and support that we've received from our listeners. If you're enjoying the show, you can buy us a coffee via our Ko-fi website. That's kofi.com/Right in the Childhood. ko-fi.com/Right in the Childhood. There's no subscriptions or anything like that, so just buy us a coffee if you fancy. We do this for the love, but it's always good to get bought a drink. P.S. Neither of us actually enjoy coffee,
we'll probably spend it on vegan takeaway. Thank you.
So we've watched Doctor Who, Fraser.
We're back where we've stepped out of the TARDIS. It's big on the inside, you know.
It is. Although the Lacurtian fellow wasn't particularly bothered by that, seemingly.
No, won't bothered.
No. So we watched the first episode of Sylvester McCoy's run, season 24, episode 1.
Which is mad to me. Like, when you were turning to 24, I was like, there was 24 seasons before there was even, like, it's just, yeah.
Yep. And then we watched...
binging all this.
Yeah, man. I would binge all this.
Yeah.
Then there was season 26, episode 8, which was the last series. And that was from The Curse of Fenric, which was probably my favourite as a kid. So, Fraser, I recognised a lot of the actors in this, and you didn't.
I had no idea who they were.
You never heard of Kate O'Mara?
No.
She played the Rani. You never heard of Bonnie Langford?
No.
She played Mel. You never heard of Nicholas Parsons?
No.
He played the vicar in The Curse of Fenric.
Yeah, no.
No, they're all relatively famous people from my childhood. Kate O'Mara being from Dynasty, Bonnie Langford being like a famous dancer, and Nicholas Parsons being one of the most famous radio presenters ever.
All right, no, yeah, just
No,
missed them
no.
completely.
We also had a listen to all the themes from the first one to the Tom Baker one. Then we listened to the electronic-y Peter Davison one.
Yeah.
And then compared that to the theme tune Change for the Seventh Doctor. Having listened to the modern remix of the theme, what did you think of those themes?
I think they're all just pretty much the same. Like, it's the same melody. Like, they jazz it up a bit for different... It's like what we do with our theme song. Like, it's a little bit jazz. I feel like our theme song has a bit more, like, there is a bit more difference to it. And if, not that there's been more work, there probably has been more work put into it, to be honest, but, on our behalf.
Well, our themes were designed, one to sound 80s and one to sound 90s.
Yeah.
That was the idea that, you know, the majority of my childhood was the 80s and the majority of yours was the 90s.
But I do, like... There's that, like, we've almost replicated what they do with Doctor Who, because it's the same melody, and it's the melody you recognise, not really the other stuff.
Yeah.
And for me, each time I'd always recognise the melody, not what was going on afterwards. It's interesting to see the different logos and stuff. I think it was funny that we talked about how much Tom Baker's was a big influence, because I was like, I recognised the Tom Baker's logo, didn't recognise anyone else's. They all seemed like very Doctor Who logos, apart from Sylvester McCoy's one we watched. That seemed to be one that sort of rocked the boat, and I can sort of see why fans of previous would be a bit irked with this. But
I think it was supposed to signify a big change from what had been unpopular, the new start, the sacking of Colin Baker, and the logo and the theme tune, out of all of them, strangely, I do feel like the Sylvester McCoy one, both the logo and the theme tune, are the most dated of them all.
Yeah, because it's definitely that time period of like the 80s, and yeah, that's fair to say. Because the others, like, if they do feel old, it's that thing of what's a time travel show. Yeah. Whereas this is like it's tied itself to one specific decade, where the others it's like it's ambiguous when it could be. It just looks timely. Yeah. In a way. Yeah. It's old and young.
Never thought about it at the time, but you wouldn't, would you? Because that would be the modern.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah. You wouldn't think anything before or afterwards would matter. And like when the new Doctor Who stuff came out, it's very postmodernism was huge then. So it's like any sort of logo is that thing of, oh, it could be from here, it could be from there. And yeah. Future we're living in it.
So Time and the Rani was really interesting. I felt like the Rani's manipulation was actually quite sophisticated.
Using the amnesia to sort of, and there was a clear like character difference between her and the companion that she was Mel. She was impersonating to be the mock Mel.
The mock Mel.
She was.
She had been in it once previously in an episode with the Master.
You could see like a bit of a history there. between the characters. So that's a pretty cool thing that Doctor Who does. Like, they always sort of bring back villains, like, you know, but like it'd be seasons afterwards or something, or sometimes it would be like a change of Doctor. And it's like, I always wonder, like, do all his villains get an update on when he's regenerated? Just as like, this is what it looks like. One of them will interact to go, oh, BT Dub, the Doctor looks like this now. Like, just so you know.
Well, I think the way that you jump around time, you kind of get used to all the different Doctors, don't you, I suppose? But yes, they did seem to keep the continuity that they wouldn't have met the Master prior to the last time they met the Master. They did do that. And so obviously this is set after the last time he saw the Rani, who was manipulating the Luddites.
Mm-hmm.
That was a history style one where the Luddites were influenced by the mark of the Rani. She kind of like more science experiments like on this one.
Yeah. It was cool seeing Einstein as well. I was like, oh, that guy looks like Einstein. And then they were like, oh, it's Einstein. I went, oh, okay. Touche.
So, how did you get on with the effects?
They were alright, but like I was expecting it, like classic Doctor Who. I feel like you expect the like sort of campy, sort of like special effects aren't going to be like high thing. It's creative. Like they definitely are like you have to give props to, you know, the people behind this because they had to be creative with what they were doing, and I thought they were creative and cool with it. And that's sort of science fiction. Science fiction's always, I feel, when you embrace the ropiness of it, that's when science fiction can be the best. I mean, it's great when, you know, the special effects are great because then you're like, oh my goodness, but then it's sort of for everyone. Everyone can sort of see that. But whereas this, it's like, it feels like whenever I hear about Doctor Who fans and I watch this, it's like, this is what Doctor Who fans like. Like, they like their sort of...
I feel like this is what Doctor Who fans have to defend because it is...
Yeah. Well, they have to defend...
They
have to defend it to normies, but like, this will be what they gush about to fellow Doctor Who fans. And yeah, I think it's like the same thing that I'll compare it with like Star Wars in a way. Like, there's stuff that, you know, as a Star Wars fan, it's like, hey, we can say shit about that, but you can't.
Yeah,
like,
that's probably fair.
Like, yeah. Or like, yeah, but that campiness makes me enjoy it more. Like, I'll say it, I like some Jar Jar episodes in the Clone Wars.
I didn't like any Jar Jar episodes.
Even Mace Windu have this arc where
that was awful.
Oh no, I liked it. I thought it was hilarious. Just because poor Mace Windu had to deal with it, I was like...
Mace Windu's reaction to Jar Jar was enjoyable, but I just can't get on with Jar Jar. But Mel was quite a controversial...
Yeah, she was like the Jar Jar of Doctor Who.
Not quite, but because you didn't actually see it, I vividly remember...
Screamy,
No, but I vividly remember in Dragonfire, the next serial after this, she has the dubious honour of the longest and loudest scream in Doctor Who history.
Oh, God.
And this was in an era of the show where they were trying to do a new start, and the companion was an absolute Doctor Who stereotype trope.
Yeah.
And they did try and make Mel interesting in her. She was bright and she was clever and she...
Because that's something that stays throughout, like what we saw in the second episode we watched. Ace was very smart with it all, and she had a personality as well, which was really cool. But then you look at like Rose and sort of Martha, and then I forget Donna. Like, they all have like, you know, they've got the smarts there as well, and the Doctor and the companion learn from each other. Like, the Doctor's learning humanity from them, and they're learning. Again, it's sort of that. It's cool that they say the Doctor, or like here this in the second one they say Ace says Professor, because it is that apprentice sort of sort of relationship.
So it's fascinating. There were lots and lots of too many malaprops with the Doctor having his mind being a bit wonky in the first one.
Yeah,
but those malaprops kind of generally dipped as it went further along.
Well, that's it. It's to be expected, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, but the consistent malaprop was Ace calling him the Professor when he wanted to be called the Doctor.
Yeah.
It wasn't like she was winding him up. It's just because he was clever.
That relationship,
She kind of did that. And I think Mel and Ace, Bonnie Langford and Sophie Aldred, were both very 80s in their different ways.
Yeah, like you saw with Ace, like that you were showing me like the bomber jacket and all that sort of cool stuff. In.
So Bonnie Langford was just the stereotypical 80s fitness girl.
Yeah, had the leggings,
Yeah,
the hair,
fucking
the frizzy
leg
hair.
warmers, mate.
Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah.
Whereas-
Again, it dates it, but like that's okay because Doctor Who picked up a companion from the 80s. He'll pick up a companion from the 90s. And
Exactly.
Whatever, yeah,
And
that wasn't too bad.
in previous series, they did, like, Leela was a cave woman. So they have done
cool.
that. Yeah. So she had
I was
like...
gonna say, that'd be cool if they did someone like really far in the past or really far in the future.
Yeah, they've
That'd
done...
be-
Well, Zoe was supposed to be set from the future, and she wore sparkly cat suits.
Yeah.
It was... I'll show you a
I hope
picture of
that's a
Zoe.
dystopian future. Well, I always thought you were going to say there was bits of a companion who was dressed like Martin McFly in Back to the Future too. I was like, oh, yes, please.
No Marty McFly. No, unfortunately not. No hoverboards either.
Devastating.
But the bubble trap in the first episode, Time and the Rani, I remember being absolutely terrified. Absolutely terrified of that concept of a trap that would put you in a kind of
Confined space.
like, and then blow you up.
Yeah.
And
the effects backed it up as well, like when there wasn't a person in there. And
Yeah.
there was a big explosion. It was pretty
the
cool.
effects were great when it was
Yeah.
when it didn't have someone in, but the unfortunate green screen, particularly with curly hair,
Yeah.
with Mel being trapped in it.
Yeah.
But that scream, that was the scream.
Of
The-
yeah, the scream she would become.
I apologise to all of our
known
dog
for.
listeners.
Oh,
But
you're a good boy or a good girl.
but
Stroke.
I remember that terrified, but I remember that cliffhanger vividly because although I now am a bit sceptical about Mel, she was this young girl that I liked that
And
had,
you sort of associate yourself with, like, I feel that's the thing, why it works so well for, like, the childhood aspect is the companion's always someone you sort of identify with and see yourself as, and then you can
Yeah.
pick, even if it's not the main companion, like I know in later season, in the reboot, they brought, like, multiple companions, and so,
Yeah.
like, if you didn't have the main companion to identify, you did other ones, and
yeah,
stuff like that.
they've very much played with the format in between the TV movie and the reboot. The new Doctor Who material was all audio plays by a company called Big Finish, and they played with the companion format. They brought in a companion that I thought was absolutely sublime. It was a university professor called Evelyn, and she was in her 60s and dying of cancer, and the last thing she did was travel in the TARDIS with the Doctor.
that's cute.
And the only reason they stopped writing Evelyn stories was because the actor who played her died.
I was like, oh.
She was so good. But the stuff that they did in Big Finish, to some extent, redeemed the poor run of Colin Baker, gave him an opportunity to expand his character with stuff like interaction with
so did
Evelyn.
he come back then?
Yep.
For it?
Yep.
That's good. So why did he get fired? Was it just conflict of interest? Or?
He was fired because they wanted the new start. It wasn't really anything Colin
so it
Baker had
wasn't
done.
really
He'd been
yeah.
given bum scripts and bum time slots, and he was kind of a scapegoat, is the general consensus about what the reality
poor guy,
was.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was mortified and devastated. He did like this photo shoot where the character grew a beard and Mel had got a new costume. He'd got a different outfit and he was going to do the next series. Then he got fired.
Yeah.
And that was in Doctor Who magazine. He was on the front cover with this
that's
new
not
look
cool.
and then gone.
That's not cool. So they were going for it like they could have done a fresh start with him as like.
They could have done.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I think Sylvester McCoy was cheap as well.
Probably, yeah.
Did you recognise Sylvester McCoy, by the way?
No.
Have you seen the Hobbit films?
Oh, yeah.
He's Gandalf's mate in that.
No.
Yeah, Sylvester McCoy was that character. I can't remember his name.
Really? Frodo.
No.
Not Frodo. I know you mean Martin Freeman's character in The Hobbit.
No, he played Radagast. The magician with the sled. No?
No.
You'll know Radagast when you see him. He was the other wizard who had a sled and...
No, the only wizard I gave any hoots about was Gandalf.
Okay, fine.
But
he was in The Hobbit anyway.
Oh, was it like the Hobbit? I didn't really watch the Hobbit series, to be honest.
No,
it wasn't for me. I liked the original Lord of the Rings ones, but those Hobbit ones, when it was like they were stretching out, and I was a bit like, eh.
They did stretch it out.
Although Martin Freeman, I don't mind him. He's pretty cool.
Yeah,
pretty cool dude.
So what I want to do about this thing about wonky sets, the Rani's base could be described as wonky, but the skeleton of the dead Lacertian was very cool.
Yeah, like when they didn't have their because obviously there's limitations to stuff you can do, like costumes and stuff like that. But when they were like, oh, we can make this, or like they have a freedom to do it, like with a skeleton, it's like you can literally make that and stuff like that. When they had the possibilities to do it, or like given the option,
it looked like it had been 3D printed, but you didn't have that in 1985.
So again, just creative solutions for like.
So someone had made that from like papier-mâché or moulded it from clay or something, and it was amazing.
Pretty cool. Those props to the props team.
Props to the props team, and
props to props.
That was what was frustrating for me as a Doctor Who fan as I got a little older. There was some elements, like, for example, that Lacertian skeleton, that were great. Some of the practical effects were great in Doctor Who. Some of the practical effects were terrible.
Yeah.
I mean, if you go far enough back, there was a serial called Inferno with John Pertwee, and the bad guys in that had clearly got 10p Dracula teeth that you could have got in a cracker.
Oh, I love that.
You know the ones that like a false teeth you put in your mouth?
Well aware.
And you even saw them fall off the guy's teeth at one point. And it was just like, come on. I could have literally got those in a cracker.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Does it lend itself... Doctor Who must lend itself to fan films. Because of the way it's...
Yeah. In fact...
Because of the way you can do, like, the same effects now with the...
Yeah. Well, there was a series called The Stranger, which wasn't allowed to be Doctor Who, but basically Colin Baker played the Doctor with amnesia, and he was called The Stranger. And it was the same premise where the stranger and a companion saved the day in certain situations.
Right, yeah.
But that was fan-made. They found enough money to pay Colin Baker.
I'm sure he was happy to do it as well.
Yeah. And the audio stuff that I talked about originally started with a tiny team of fans who wanted to carry on Doctor Who. They got some money from somewhere, got the three actors back.
That's the rights as well, I imagine, from BBC and the like.
Yeah, they got Peter Davison, Colin Baker, and Sylvester McCoy back initially. And on the shoestring budget, the writing was so strong.
And I think that's always been a thing with Doctor Who, like the writing. If the writing's strong, then the story's always going to carry through. And I think that's probably why, like, the modern stuff has sort of took a dip, is because, like,
potentially,
I know a lot of the fans say that, like, the writing's not as good as it.
Well, Dalek, we talked about it very briefly previously, the episode with Christopher Eccleston and the Dalek. Yeah. That was a Big Finish story. They got the writer to adapt it for the television series.
Cool.
It was an audio called Jubilee with Colin Baker, and a lot of the people involved in Big Finish ended up being involved in the telly show.
Oh, that's good.
The guy who plays the Daleks, he was a big deal in Big Finish. He was one of the people who set up Big Finish.
Okay. Oh, that's cool.
But the thing about Doctor Who is it never died. And so even in the darkest times...
It's like Star Wars. It's lived through like other forms of medium, didn't it? Like radio and stuff like, I
just continued my grasp on Doctor Who basically through my entire life up until the incredible news that in 2005 that Christopher fucking Eccleston, one of the hottest actors in the country at the time, was going to play the Doctor. Remember, that was 10 years after the film, but stuff like Big Finish and stuff like the fandom, the magazine never died. The comic strip continued.
Yeah.
And I felt a part of something that it was almost like a forum before the internet had forums.
Yeah.
It was something so precious that all these other people...
Proper big fandom in it.
Cared as much as I did. And there were some fans that even put their money into paying the actors to record their voices with a microphone that's probably no better than the one we're using at the moment now, to carry on the legend of Doctor Who. And I just...
Pretty awesome, isn't it?
Did you engage with either of these episodes at all?
I like the characters. Obviously, I think the Doctor is just always charming. And I think the companions really help. Like, I really liked Ace. I thought she was pretty cool, and I liked their dynamic between her and the Doctor. I think it helped as well, him having a new companion, because with the first episode, it felt like he was trying too hard to be like Colin Baker's Doctor, so he still had the Colin Baker outfit, he still had the Colin Baker companion, and like the previous villain. So when he got his own stuff, it felt more natural, and it felt more like his version of the character.
Yeah, that's probably
I'm also
fair.
interested to get your opinion on this, because we got two... I feel like there's always two types of Doctor Who episodes, and it's why it's funny. The Community sort of parody is like Adventure Space Time, but there's always... It's either him in space dealing with aliens, or it's him in time dealing with either like, you know, characters from time.
Yep.
Or monsters in this case. Which do you prefer when you watch Doctor Who? Do you like a time travel adventure, or do you like a space one?
Honestly, the fact that it's that diverse is probably what attracts it to me. So I don't think I've got a preference, because I think it's that whole premise that makes it attractive to me.
You don't know what you're going to get when you tune
exactly
in. You're like,
that.
am I going to get a time travel story? Am I going to be in space? Am I going to get a bit of both? Like,
some of the stuff, I mean, Remembrance of the Daleks was a story about racism. And I was, 1986? So I was 8. And I got racism from Doctor Who. I got racism. I got it. And this show, man.
I can sort of, when we were watching this as well, it sort of clicked on me, like the LGBT connection, because it's like, it's very campy, like, it's the outfits as well.
It wasn't deliberately campy, though.
And the flamboyance. I can sort of see why people would... And just owning who you are, because the Doctor's... He's very unapologetic about who he is, do you know what I mean? And I love that about him. Like, he'll wear these extraordinary outfits and, you know, he's just so confident with who he is. And I guess that's what people want to aspire to be like that. And
True.
definitely.
So...
Pride.
I'm going to try... Yeah. I'm going to try and be as positive as I can, because, you know, I can, with 2021 vision, see that some of the criticism of Doctor Who, weak sets, etc., is probably fair. But it's little touches, like...
I wouldn't say if it's fair, though, because it's a product of its time, and it's...
They were
like
wonky at the time.
How it was but how it was made, like, it's cheap budgets and stuff like that. I feel like... Maybe it's just because I'm always a bit too positive, or I give things too much credit, but I think... For what they had and what the setbacks they had to face, I'd say they did a really good job.
I'm glad.
I mean, definitely better than like Tripods and Dartsies and those moments with that. I was like, oh, come on.
So you prefer this to tripods and
definitely.
stuff like that? Well, at least that's a
I
good
like the
one.
actual stuff.
The little touches were always there. So they had a race called the Lacertians. They were kind of lizardy, evolved type people. And they ran different to humans. They ran with their arms behind their back.
They nearly did the Naruto run before the Naruto run. But the Naruto run's like your arms foot all the way.
Yeah. So yeah, I suppose it was a bit of Naruto run thinking about it.
But like halfway. So humans run like this, like, yeah, they had their arms to the side. Naruto's like arms all the way back. Apparently that's that's the best way to do if you're going at a super duper speed or something like this. There's some explanation for it.
Yeah, it's not very safe though if you fall over.
Face.
Yeah. I did worry about those people running with their arms behind their back in a fucking quarry.
Yeah.
That quarry was cool as well.
It was, yeah.
And I love that this carried on to the reboot. The
Later seasons.
Yeah, the trope of the Doctor trying on lots of different outfits.
Yeah.
That's been there from the very beginning. I think they all did it.
Yeah.
I know you didn't recognise the
No,
outfits.
I did. No,
did you?
I knew each outfit because I was like, because to me it was, that's an iconic Doctor Who outfit. It's one of the Doctors. That's an iconic. Like, I feel like each Doctor had their iconic look. But I've also seen cosplayers, so a lot of cosplayers where I was like...
I was going to ask how the hell you knew about the classic Doctor Who looks.
But yeah, cosplayers and like just images, really.
Good grief.
But yeah.
When you think about these outfits, the Sylvester McCoy outfit, for example, so 1985, that's nearly 30 years old. So 40, 50 years for stuff like Tom Baker and yet you recognise these outfits. Cosplay is...
It's a good way of keeping stuff
through
around,
cosplay, that's amazing.
It is. But then again, it's one of those things as well, and it's like, I won't say public domain, but like geek domain. It's always around, and it like you see, if you go to different like websites and stuff like that, you're bound to see stuff like, so why everyone knows like iconic superhero outfits, like, you know, Superman's changed his outfit so many times, but you'll recognise different ones. And
True.
Stuff like that.
Even if you don't want to recognise the electric one, because that was shit.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, the outfit was good, but the powers were shit.
But the powers weren't great, yeah. It looked cool, then it was.
I really thought the cliffhanger was the kind of cliffhanger that I remembered. Holy shit, Mel is gonna die. I've got to wait a week.
Yeah. I mean, I was less hooked by the cliffhangers. I was a bit like, okay, good way to end it.
Really?
Yeah, I was like, oh, it's a good way to end an episode, yeah.
Fine.
But I guess I'm used to, like, when I think of cliffhanger now, especially with Doctor Who cliffhanger, it's like, is the world going to end? Is the Doctor going to be, like... You know what I mean? Especially, like, have you seen that you know when Rose goes?
Yeah.
That level of stuff, like, that's peril, and that's, like... And she actually does go as well, which makes it more thing. Whereas this, it was very much like, yeah, Doctor's going to save her, though, isn't he?
Well, you could say that about every single cliffhanger ever. Oh, the Doctor's going to save her.
No, but you don't, though, because when he doesn't save Rose...
True.
Then you're like, oh no, there are consequences to this. Or...
I mean, there was a companion who died not so long ago from the Doctor's incompetence.
Yeah.
They killed Adric, who was a companion to Peter Davison's Doctor. Peter Davison's Doctor couldn't save him, and the last image you saw was him holding this sentimental badge that he'd always had and crying before he blew to pieces. Doctor Who could be really fucking brutal.
Could be. I don't know. That Rose, man.
Yeah,
Still breaks my heart.
So, I think that there was so much good for the reboot to work from.
Mm-hmm.
With a bigger budget, with some CGI, with some more tight writing. You got quite a lot of serials that were maybe enough for 2 25-minute episodes, eked out to 3, and that kind of thing. I didn't feel like these episodes in particular were padded.
No?
No, I
don't think so.
Because you thought Tripods was really slow-paced, didn't you? God, how did you feel about the pace of this?
So, it was good, but it was like I say, it was 23 minutes. Tripods felt like it was an hour.
They were the same amount of time. Same time slot.
The Tripods just dragged. There was, I will say in the first episode, there was a lot of talking to start off with, but then the plot moved on. When it was
Talking's cheap though, isn't it?
Talking loads, yeah. I was like, oh, great. But I do like with these shows, I always talk about like show, don't tell. And I think they were good at that. Especially the second episode, they were really good at that. Because like, you know, the thing that we were supposed to fear, we saw quite a lot of, or it was, you know, alluded to.
Well, let's talk about
the Tripods. You weren't alluded to. It was like, oh yeah, I was just talking and shaving notes.
So the Curse of Fenric is famous for being a vampire story. And the first episode, you saw no vampires. You just saw the evil barnacled hand catch that thing. They are vampires from the sea.
Oh, right. I thought it was going to be like a Loch Ness sort of inspired.
No.
Gimmick.
But the pacing, I feel like this first episode, whereas it established things and it clearly gave you this fucking town is scary as shit. There is stuff going on. But it didn't give you anything. But compare that to Chimera, I was
about
hooked.
to say, like,
I was hooked.
With Chimera, like, you're hooked. Like, Chimera had no indication, like, apart from you telling me, I had no indication anything important was going to happen. And I think it's important, like, how I'll make this comparison now. So most of the other shows, Chimera included tripods and all that. This Doctor Who is like Coca-Cola. The others are like Pepsi or like, what's other knockoff Coke?
Roller Cola.
Yeah, or like
Panda Pops.
or even like you could say Dr. Pepper is like Torchwood because, you know, the same company made it. But I liked as well that this said classic Doctor Who on it when we watched it. So it's like, this is classic cola, whereas like the reboot's like the new Coke that's probably better for you. It's good. It's better for me, so I'm still getting like things. But this is
But like in America, you can still get the full sugar classic thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
But yeah, this was like, it was good to get the actual taste of Doctor Who. And it just proved that why these other shows weren't as successful as Doctor Who, because they didn't do it as well.
And I'm going to point out another little touch that, as a kid, I spotted. They switched the colour of his coat, the grey jacket to brown jacket, to emphasise the darker turn in the show.
Oh, yeah.
And I just loved that. And as a kid, that was like, oh, it's just so cool. I'm watching sophisticated telly. But I'm now going to talk about the thing that I will always complain about for American shows, so I can't not do it about a British show.
One, yeah.
Ace was supposed to be 16.
She looked 16 in the pictures you showed me when she's like in a natural outfit, but when she was in this period piece, did age her a bit.
I think Sophie Aldred looked way too old, and the other two 16-year-old girls looked way too old. They looked like women, not
Mind
girls.
you, though, it was World War, wasn't it? So that might have aged them a bit.
And we both looked at each other at the point where the Doctor wrote a letter that basically performed the same plot device as the psychic paper.
I love that psychic paper, or like the psychic card where it's like, oh, this is my credentials. And I thought he was doing something like that when he said it, and I was like, oh, nice. And that was the thing I was like, you know, we were talking about before we watched the stuff, like, what stuff do you feel iconic is, what is iconically Doctor Who? And it's that thing of, it's the little, like, gadgets and gizmos he's got that he managed, like the sonic screwdriver always gets him out of stuff, you know, the psychic card always gets him out of stuff, and just running. A lot of the times I just remember how David Tennant's Doctor Who got out of trouble was just, he just ran. He ran like, he just, like, that would just be the episode, he'd run, then get the sonic screwdriver out, and that'd be it.
That was definitely something that they carried from the original series. Run. Oh. And when they did like a weird ass little Children in Need crossover, it was called Dimensions in Time. They brought back all the Doctors that were still alive. And the Rani was the baddie in that. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. It was unforgivably bad. It was a crossover with EastEnders.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. And one of the Doctors hadn't said run. So they made him say run. One of the Doctors hadn't met the Brigadier, who is a ongoing character that literally met every single Doctor, and except for Colin Baker's Doctor. So they had Colin Baker's Doctor meet the Brigadier in the Children of Need special. They then did him in Big Finish with the Brigadier. Then they did the 8th Doctor with the Brigadier.
Right.
And if you remember the Brigadier in the Sarah Jane series, the old guy with the stick, that was the Brigadier.
Yeah.
He made his debut in the John Pertwee episodes as an ongoing character. But because of the 3 Doctors, he got to meet the other 2 as well.
That's pretty cool.
The 3 Doctors was a 10-year celebration where they had the original 3 Doctors.
They did a celebration recently, didn't they? I say recently, it might have been a while back, where like all the Doctors met or something, didn't they?
They did the kind of one with the modern Doctors, but they didn't bring. They've only brought back Peter Davison so far as a Doctor in the reboot,
right?
Because Peter Davison doesn't age.
Is it not?
Well, he still looks super young compared to very haggard, no more blonde curls Colin Baker.
Oh, yeah.
And
I have seen some of the doctors that, like, they'll be advertised for a panel or something, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
Well, Sylvester McCoy, and
He's
knocking 80. Tom Baker's well into his 80s.
Yeah.
But Tom Baker was the doctor in the 70s.
Isn't it mad, though, that some of those doctors are like... I remember when Peter Capaldi came up, he was like... He was the same age as some of the older doctors. And that was nuts.
Peter Capaldi was the same age as the original Doctor when he started. But it reminded me of how modern society has changed. Peter Capaldi was in good nick. William Hartnell had to leave the part after 3 years because he was so ill.
Yeah.
Peter Capaldi's lived much longer than William Hartnell did.
Isn't he?
Yeah.
And he's on, the Suicide Squad with, not Doctor Who, Pete Davison.
Yeah. I didn't spot the subtle dig at racism until we rewatched this now. There was dismissive behaviour from a Russian character to an Armenian character just because he was Armenian. Never ever spotted that up until today. And these little subtleties are things that people don't appreciate about Doctor Who. Stuff like...
Or just telly in general. Like, we've talked about it, and like, there's loads of subtleties in kid shows where we've gone, if you just stick it on in the background, don't think about it, whatever. Or like, if you're just watching like your regular weekly thing, you don't think about it. But when you're analysing it, or when you're like looking at it more detail, just like, I think we've, in the modern society, we're more aware of stuff like that, and we pick up on cues like that because more TV's doing that. Then it's like, it's nice that it was a thing before.
Yeah. Although, the moment there was this girl's called Audrey. Oh, my mum's name's Audrey. You looked at me and said, that's a mum.
Yeah.
At the time, that wouldn't have been as obvious.
Are you sure?
I don't think so. Or at least not for 8-year-old me or 9-year-old me.
8-year-old you would have picked up, like, they've got the same name, like, she's holding the bait, like, they do that quite a bit as well, don't they, in Doctor Who as well, like, or is a character that, this character becomes important later on, or this is my mum, or this is my grandma, or something.
They hadn't really done it in the classic until this series.
In Back to the Future, though, didn't they?
Yeah. But, the whole ongoing plot of the last series of classic Doctor Who was the Doctor... I don't know whether it was manipulation or whether it was done out of kindness or both. And I'm not sure how well it will have aged. But he kept taking her back to instances where she would be more comfortable with leaving him and returning to Perivale, where she's from. And it was an interesting one. He took her to the haunted house she was scared of as a kid in Ghostlight. He took her to meet her mum. And when he took her back to Perivale, he knew that something had gone wrong in Perivale. It was...
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be problematic, but I do think I'm going to rewatch it with modern eyes.
And just see what... see what's occurring.
Mate, I just loved this show. And as I've got into other stuff and watched the reboot, I still love this show, but I'm not really as obsessive about it because I don't have, or at least I no longer engage with the community I once did when it wasn't on the air.
Yeah.
I still watch Doctor Who. I watch it the day it comes out, every time. But I don't rewatch it religiously and go on forums and
get the extra
which I did.
Supplements.
I did for Eccleston and Tennant, but I kind of like dipped away. I still love Doctor Who. I'll always love
like
Doctor Who.
We said it, haven't we? David Tennant was a lot of the time. When he left, I feel like a lot of the fandom dipped there as well.
Maybe.
And it's not a disservice to Matt Smith. I just think David Tennant was just so good. And I've heard some good stuff about Matt Smith as well. And Karen Gillan was just a great actress.
She was great.
And she was a great companion in the parts I saw. But
you just stopped watching during Matt Smith and you didn't watch Capaldi or...
No.
Whittaker.
I watched some Capaldi. And then I'm really meant to start with Whittaker, but then I was like, I just didn't.
I've watched them all.
I've heard some good stuff about
Once.
her stuff, though.
So when the first series came out, I watched that like I'd watched Doctor Who in the past. I bought the box set. I watched it again and again and again. And then same with the Tennant stuff. Didn't even buy the DVDs of the Smith stuff. And I've watched all of the Smith stuff once, all of the Capaldi stuff once, all of the Whittaker stuff once. So, I don't know. I don't feel like my love of Doctor Who will ever die.
No.
But having watched this, I do want to do a rewatch of
Classic.
all the Sylvester McCoy era. I do. But I don't think I'll want to watch.
Jump on more Doctor Who, yeah.
No.
But that's the good thing about the show, isn't it? There's different, like we say, there's different Doctors for different people, and you can, 20, what was it, nearly 30 seasons, or more than 30 seasons.
26.
The original. Like, that's more than enough to fill your boots, and you don't need to watch it all. And then all the new
You
stuff
can't
as
watch
well.
it all. A lot of the stuff has ended up being...
Removed from...
Well, it was just destroyed. It doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, right.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, particularly the older stuff. The first and second Doctor, there's a lot of missing stories and a lot of stories that have got missing episodes and stuff, because the
Right,
BBC
yeah.
just recorded over shit.
Fair.
Yeah.
Nice one.
But when you think about it, random teleprogram from 1971, no one's interested in that anymore.
I'm sure a lot of people record over stuff as well, don't you? Like,
Yeah.
Someone record over a wedding or something.
So I'm going to rewatch me some Sylvester McCoy Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
Might watch some Tennant stuff.
I mean, I'm going to take that as a win.
Yeah, I mean, I said I might. Like, it's... If someone was like, do you want to watch Doctor Who? And I was like, oh yeah, good, let's watch Tennant. I feel like if I had to watch any Doctor Who, we'd do Tennant.
Well, you remember I
Might
mentioned
watch
Big
some-
Finish?
Might watch some clips.
Fair. You remember I mentioned Big Finish?
Mm-hmm.
They've just signed Christopher Eccleston to do a run
Oh
for
yeah,
them
because
as well.
he's gone back with Doctor Who, hasn't he? Because he had a big falling out with him, but he's building bridges.
Yeah, he's
Good to
recording
see.
some audio dramas.
Yeah, I might just watch some clips of Rose, or just the one clip of Rose behind that thing and have a cry. Oh, I like David Tennant's as well, like his little, I don't want to go.
Yeah, that's a meme, that. So, Fraser, it is top 5 time. Would you like me to remind you of your top 5?
I would, yes.
At 5 is Robin of Sherwood.
Oh, bye, Robin.
At 4 is the Gummy Bears.
Ooh.
At 3 is Round the Twist. At 2, Cyber City Uedo 808.
Mm-hmm.
And at 1, it's Boy Meets World. Where are you putting classic Doctor Who?
I'm questioning my head here, because I was like, now I'm thinking, why did I put Gummy Bears ahead of Round the Twist? But then
You
didn't.
didn't. You put Round the Twist
No,
ahead
why
of
did I put Round the Twist ahead of Gummy Bears? Why didn't I do it the other way? No, actually, no, I did like the Australian thing. Yeah, no, the Gummy Bears second episode on it. Well, Robin of Sherwood's definitely going.
Okay.
Just because it was about time it left. It's been there far too long.
Okay.
It's tough because we're saying classic Doctor Who like the Doctor Who we just watched. If it was Doctor Who in general, I'd obviously pull a lot of that David Tennant stuff in.
Well, yeah, but Doctor Who in general is from your childhood, so that's not right. It has to be classic Doctor Who. What you've
If we
seen
go
so
for
far.
classic Doctor Who, I don't. It's not 1 and it's not number 2, which I know probably breaks your heart.
No, I'm just glad it made the top 5.
It's tough. I'm gonna, because I think Round the Twist and Gummy Bears deserve to be close together. I'm gonna put it as number 3.
Good grief. I'll definitely take that.
But to be fair, it does get a lot of good grace from David Tennant, I feel.
You can't do that.
I know, but I'm not doing it too much because then it'd be number 1. But yeah, it's getting a lot of.
Good grief. I didn't expect that. My prediction was it would go in at 5, knocking off Robin of Sherwood.
Nah, Robin of Sherwood is in the bin, but
Robin of Sherwood is gone.
Both versions of Robin.
Wow.
Off you go.
Even beautiful, beautiful Jason Connery. Mate.
Bye.
Bye.
Been replaced with Ace. I was thinking maybe I should go by like a different, like, I was thinking, maybe Ace, but I was like, oh no, it's stretching the sexuality too much. But like, you know, like Ace is very like, hey, that's Ace. It's a very 80s thing to say. Maybe I might do like a Gen Z one, so it might be called like Dope or Lit.
Or Zed.
Or just the fire emoji. What's your name? Fire emoji.
Fuck me.
100 emoji.
The artist formerly known as Fraser.
Yeah. I'm now the fire emoji.
Fuck's sake. Don't
you call me fire. or lit. Lit, dope. Yeah. No, could you imagine though if a companion was like, oh, don't call me. It feels funny, but like
it doesn't feel wrong that you're suggesting that if the companion had a similar name, because Ace was a word for cool at the time. So yeah, dope would be, or bear good,
dead good. That'd be a proper mank one. Yeah, let's go get some fat scrum.
Wow.
Yeah.
So Fraser, what are we doing next?
Good question, Mark. Good question indeed. Well, because it's been a yearly celebration, we've had the party poppers. Pop. We've lost a few in the TARDIS.
Right.
They've gone missing somewhere. So I thought, while we were in the TARDIS, I looked back and I was like, oh yeah, we did drop a name of a show that we were going to do and then didn't. And then kept referencing it at some point. So yeah, I think it's time to finally do Lizzie McGuire.
Brilliant. So you promised Lizzie McGuire on the first episode.
The first, yeah.
And now we're doing it for the 1 year celebration.
Later, yeah, why not?
Brilliant.
Seems alright.
I've got no clue.
Looking
Looking forward to learning about Lizzie McGuire in the next episode.
Do you remember where you parked the TARDIS?
No, because of the chameleon device, it's now turned into something I'll never spot it again.
Oh,
shit.
Not ideal.
Mate.
I think it would be a good Doctor Who and companionship. It's been an honour being the companion to your professor.
Really?
Yeah.
Good.
Ace.
I wouldn't have any other companion in my life.
Thank you. So you're the Doctor and I'm dope.
Thank you.
Which works because I'm dopey and dope.
Thank you for listening to our kind of anniversary special, I suppose. And we'll see you next time on Right in the Childhood.
Dun 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 dun.
Right in the Childhood is a podcast brought to you by the We Made This Podcast Network. You can follow the show on Twitter at RITCpod. The show's creators and hosts are Mark Adams and Fraser Summers. Follow us on Twitter at MarkAdamsHC and at SpiderPanTweets. The show's logo was created by Carl Bryan and the theme tune composed and performed by Colin Jackson Brown. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed being hit.
Hello everyone, this is Tony, Network Chief of We Made This. As you know, our podcast network brings together a brilliant assortment of talent who talk about all kinds of pop culture content, such as the episode you just listened to. We're not going anywhere, but we'd love to keep the lights on for even longer if you're able to support our network on Patreon. For just £2 a month, you get your name in lights and the satisfaction of knowing you're helping us produce more great audio. And for £3 a month, you'll get your name in lights, but you'll also get access to an exclusive bi-monthly podcast from the We Made This talent pool on podcasting, pop culture, and, well, you tell us. We'll take your suggestions. For less than the price of a coffee per month, you can help keep We Made This going. Just head to patreon.com/ We Made This. That's patreon.com/We Made This. And get the ball rolling. Elsewhere on We Made This. Podcast 616, a Marvel Universe podcast.
I definitely noticed that they weren't the actual voice actors. It didn't bother me. It didn't feel strange or anything. I mean, we as viewers have become so accustomed to seeing, Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, or Chadwick Boseman as T'Challa, or Dave Bautista as Drax, that in these instances, when we hear their voices and they don't necessarily match, it's like, oh, wait a second, that's not the right person. But, stepping outside of it for a moment, these are comic book characters. We're introducing the multiverse, right? And now we are introducing all of these tangents of stories that can go in any different kind of direction. So they don't need to be the same actor. They don't need to be the same voice one-to-one, in my mind. And as a fan, I can accept this. I'm okay with that.
The Movie Palace podcast.
Yeah, is Truffaut somebody you found yourself drawn to over the years? Have you watched a lot of his films?
So, just in terms of French New Wave, I think I've seen more Jean-Luc Godard than I've seen Francois Truffaut. But I really do love Francois Truffaut. I love his attention to realism and to small aspects of people's lives. And I love his stories and how character-driven they are. I've seen Shoot the Piano Player, Jules and Jim, which isn't one of my favorites, but I'm trying to appreciate it more.
Shipwrecked and Comatose, a Red Dwarf podcast.
Craig Charles looks cool as Sebastian Doyle. I would love to look that cool. Oh,
Craig Charles tends to look cool all of the time, though.
Well, true, but he looks more sophisticated cool than Rock-a-Dude with a band cool. And I'm getting old, I want to look sophisticated cool rather than Rock-a-Dude cool.
Craig Charles had apparently said that, it was great to be able to play this version of Lister because that's more like me. I'm the cool guy. Which I thought was great.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.